we've seen the rise of this progressive insistence that projects like Canada and the United States, et cetera, and Israel are part of this colonial, capitalist, oppressive enterprise. Now, that's permeated Canadian society to some degree, but it's also permeated the UN. And Canada has been historically aligned with the UN, and our foreign policy has been determined by that alliance for a very long time.
Yeah.
Well, influenced then, if not determined, influenced. And that was a matter of pride in Canada when the UN was quasi-functional organization, let's say. But so you see the emergence of that post-Soviet Union Marxist-inspired colonial rhetoric in the UN and in Canada, and the fact that Canada's been allied with the UN has also shaped our foreign policy in a rather unthinking manner, especially under Trudeau, who has no, what would you say, has what? No knowledge, no imagination for like, how do you explain?
Okay, here's Trudeau. Here's the thing about Trudeau.
Yeah.
There's really not much there. I hate to be uncharitable.
I think it's time to be uncharitable.
Okay. Well, there really isn't much there. He's. I think you've been very interested in the phenomenon of narcissism. There you go.
Well,
the world is a vanity mirror, and you have to remember when he came along, it sort of parallels the rise of Trump in the United States, right? When he was first elected, just a few months from the election of Donald Trump, and Donald Trump. Said all these scary things about Muslims, and then Justin Trudeau, tweets, well, everybody's welcome to Canada. It doesn't matter. You can be a Muslim. We love you. The next thing you know, he's on the front page of the Rolling Stone magazine. He's the toast of, Vogue photo shoots. He's the leader of the free world. And
he was the poster boy for he is the poster boy for the progressive movement internationally, I would say.
Yeah.
And he is and the narcissism element, you talked about him to some degree as an empty drum, let's say, and I have made reference to him as a narcissist. I mean, my observation in that regard was driven by the manner in which he adopted the leadership of the Liberal Party, because I felt I'd like your opinion about this. When he emerged, I thought I kind of had two opinions, right? People went to him and made the case that he would be a credible and popular leader of the Liberals, not least because of his name brand recognition. And I can imagine being in that position, let's say, and thinking, okay, this is a risky enterprise because I don't have the CV that would indicate that I'm capable of running a G7 country. But if I don't run, then the Conservatives, who were my father's foes, let's say, and aren't aligned with me politically, have a really good crack at victory. And if I put my name forward, maybe we can forestall that. And then maybe I could put my nose to the grindstone and I could surround myself with like high-level experts, and I could learn to play the part if I was open to that kind of learning. Okay, that's an unlikely scenario, that one, but he did, in fact, adopt it. But he didn't do any of that, right? He didn't.
Well, I think a lot of people, he's not my cup of tea, but a lot of people were really swept. He was sort of like this matinee idol. A lot of people got caught up in that.
Yes, well, he's charming and he's elegant and he's good looking and he knows how to behave in public and he's got an easy smile and women find him essentially irresistible and
very photogenic, very charming, as you say.
Very well, and he's been in that milieu his whole life and has been groomed for that.
But as far as the intellectual milieu, if there was such a thing, around his emergence, everybody was willing to give him a chance. I was willing to give him a chance. I remember speaking to him back when he was running for office, in the election. That period, and I was definitely willing to give him a shot.
Why?
Well, we spoke a lot about Syria.
Yeah.
And I have many friends and comrades who are associated with the Syrian revolutionary movement. And what was being asked of the NATO countries at the time was a no-fly zone over Syria. All we need is one NATO country to say, yes, we need to do this, because the Americans couldn't really understand what was going on. And everyone hoped that it might be Trudeau who said, yeah, I'm in. And he did give me, and of course there was the whole Syrian refugee issue, and he did try to, he made a lot of political capital out of that. We can come to that in a moment. But to understand who he represents and what he's all about, you have to wind the clock back further. You remember when Michael Ignatieff was briefly the leader of the Liberal Party?
Tell that story for the
Well, he's a very
listening.
smart guy. Michael Ignatieff was classic.
He was a Harvard professor at the time when they invited him back to Canada. He'd been down in Massachusetts for like 20 years, something like that.
Yeah, and a lot of people said, well, you're not really a Canadian, you're just visiting.
He had been out for quite a while.
So anyway, I mean,
he was an intellectual heavyweight.
Yeah, he was actually. I like Michael Ignatieff. I mean, just as an intellectual.
Well, he's certainly much more credible as a leader of a G7 country than Justin Trudeau, at least on the basis
what we've
of
got basically, it's so difficult to explain this to people from away. If you can imagine a kind of, I don't know, a TikTok account run by a 19-year-old college girl in charge of a G7 country. That's basically
14-year-old.
Okay, but anyway, so he emerges. How does he present himself to the Liberal Party as a worthwhile leader of the party? And for this, he turned to McKinsey & Associates.
Consulting firm. Major
massive
consulting
global
firm.
consulting firm. The apologist for dictators everywhere. I don't know how many billions of dollars they've had to pay out in lawsuits for boosting OxyContin sales in the United States. A fellow by the name of Dominic Barton, who happened to be a Canadian who spent half his life in China as the head of McKinsey. Trudeau brought him in, and essentially to add gravitas to his candidacy for the Liberal Party. Under
whose advisement did he bring in McKinsey? Do you know? Like, was that his idea? Or I don't imagine.
Well, it's
part
a small town. It is a small town. It is a small town.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Ottawa.
He was essentially a function of the Canada-China Business Council. This is a really important thing for people to understand. His entire campaign was built around the proposition, and this is how he sort of lent gravitas to himself, that the key to the future is China. Canada's future is China. The middle-class prosperity is all about China, China, China. And this immediately, he immediately accrued to himself a lot of money and a lot of power and a lot of help. The Desmarais Corporation, the Power Corporation in Montreal, those whole circles. And of course, his father, people don't like to talk about this when they talk about Pierre Trudeau, but he was probably the most important propaganda asset for the Chinese Communist Party during the Maoist period in the English-speaking world.
That's nothing. It was just the Chinese communists.
Yeah.
What'd they kill? 100 million people?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and Trudeau would trade in this. And you say, well, they know me in China, a family name. And a lot of that was sort of glossed over. People didn't notice what was going on.
Well, people were optimistic
because he was so glamorous, right?
We were also optimistic, I think, in the West for a reasonable amount of time that if China integrated itself into the Western economy, that they would liberalize across time.
Some of us were.
It was a case you could put forward if you were aware with all due caution of the potential risks. Right, but
that's what I'm told. Maybe it's the company.
I'm trying to give the devil his due here.
Well, all I can tell you is that two things happened in 2001. What happened? The atrocities in New York and Washington, the Al Qaeda atrocities, and the moment that the West put a knife to its own throat. Only 3 months later, by admitting China into the World Trade Organization. This is a massive event. And I think there were a lot of people of good faith who imagined that the more China modernized and became capitalist, they'd become more like us. People who understood China knew this was rubbish. It was not going to happen.
Okay, so now we've got three things operating here. We've got the rise of
China's
this kind of
really
neo-Marxism. We've got the UN influence, and now we have the China nexus. Right, this is all shaping what's happening in Canada.
Yeah.
Okay.
And anybody who's followed Canadian politics at all in the last 5 years will be aware of the scandals associated with the intimacies between the Trudeau Liberals and the United Front Work Department of the Chinese Communist Party and the organization department of the Politburo of the Chinese Communist Party, the manipulation and monkey wrenching of elections in 2019 and 2021.
Yeah, we still don't know the full extent of that.
Yeah, the whole commission is yet to report.
Right, and there's background rumors about a number of Liberal MPs being unduly influenced on the financial side.
More than background rumors. One of the things that's difficult for people to grasp is that, a lot of people ask me, my goodness, the Chinese must have something on Justin Trudeau. Mm-hmm. Some compromise. Mm-hmm. He doesn't see anything wrong with it. He doesn't.
Yes, well, that was evident in
if you take all the crazy thing, well, I don't want to, some of the things that the Democrats are saying about Trump and Russia were not crazy. But if you take all the extreme accusations that the Democrats are making about Trump's associations with the Kremlin in the 2015 election, multiply that by 10, and you have in the real world Justin Trudeau's collusions and complicity with the United Front Work Department of the Chinese Communist Party. In the open, by the way. And this is the thing. To understand Justin Trudeau, you have to understand he sees nothing wrong with this. When he got elected, immediately after he got elected, in the first election, he sat down with a reporter from the New York Times and said, this is what basically Canada is. He saw a post-national state. Mm-hmm.
With no identity.
No core identity, no mainstream. Mm-hmm. And immediately the question should have turned to, I remember talking to Jerry Butts about this, his sort of principal advisor, because we used to be quite chummy. And, John Ralston Saul.
Jerry doesn't think much of me.
He doesn't like me either.
Ah, okay.
John Ralston Saul, the philosopher, he wrote this concept of Canada as a postmodern state. And it was a kind of a nuanced, interesting philosophy, whatever. And I remember talking to Jerry, I said, Trudeau kind of got that wrong. I mean, wasn't he kind of channeling John Ralston Saul? He said, oh, no. He meant it, post-national. And so here's the question. How do you do national?
Where did he get that idea? Like Trudeau? Because first of all, it's an idea, so it's surprising he had it at all.
Well, if you hang around with the Canada-China Business Council long enough, if you enthusiastically support, for instance, the largest overseas acquisition in the history of the People's Republic of China, the, CNOOC's acquisition of Nexon.
Flesh that out a little bit.
Well, yeah, it was at a time when, just before Justin Trudeau was elected, when the Chinese Communist Party was buying up all the major, really key strategic sort of spigot points in the oil patch in Alberta. And the Harper government, the cabinet, was terribly divided about this. And eventually the good guys won. The people I considered the good guys won. Harper said, okay, that's it. Sure, it's a lot of money. They're offering us twice the share value for every purchase they're making. But no, we do not want Canada's energy sector to be owned by the organization department of the Politburo.
Probably better than that than Stephen Guilbeault.
Anyway, where were we?
Okay, well, we're weaving a web here, and the thing I find
the post-national stuff. This is really key.
Yeah.
How do you do national security in a post-national state? What does it even mean? You see, I don't think they really thought this through.
That's a fair assumption.
What are Canada's national interests if we're a post-national country? And so
there's no national interest by definition.
There's this kind of, and as I say, I don't know that I want to describe it as an ideology. It's kind of like an ideational package. This notion that Canada is this racist, colonial settler state that has engaged in genocide after genocide against its indigenous peoples. And we're the liberals and we're the nice ones. Mm-hmm. And so that's essentially what Trudeau was all about. And I think, there's an adage that what starts with the Jews doesn't end with the Jews. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. They're the canaries in the coal mine.
They are, and that's very true. That's very true. And I don't want to dispute that, and I don't want what I'm about to say as a contradiction of that. My personal view is that if it did end with the Jews, it would still be evil.
Yeah.
So big deal, kind of a deal. A lot of people will put it this way, first they come for the Saturday people and then they'll come for the Sunday people.
Right. Yeah.
In Canada, it happened the other way around. It happened on the weekend of May 29th. May 29th, 2021, when Justin Trudeau lowered the flag on Parliament Hill. And on the Monday ordered the flag lowered on all federal buildings across the country, owing to a report out of Kamloops about the discovery of a mass grave. And on the Tuesday, the chief of the Kamloops First Nation said, well, actually, we didn't say mass grave. But the flag stayed down. The flags were at half-mast.
For how long? Like 6 months?
7 months, I think it was.
It was unbelievable.
Yeah. And the people God bless them, who managed to get them back up again with the Mohawks. Thank God for the Mohawks.
Oh, I didn't know that twist on the story.
Yeah, they said, look, we have a lot of people who are veterans, and we lower our flags on the 11th of November, and also on Aboriginal Veterans Day. So how the hell are we going to lower the flags if they're already lowered? Do something about it.
So how do
Anyway.
How do you understand the relationship between, okay, so now we have a lot of balls in the air. We have